For decades, the world believed no one could ever step into the shoes of Michael Jackson. Not because of the dancing, not because of the voice, but because Michael Jackson was more than a performer. He was a phenomenon. So when the world learned that the man chosen to play him was not a major Hollywood star, but his own nephew, Jaafar Jackson, everything changed. Some called it perfect casting. Others questioned whether anyone, even family, could carry the weight of such a legendary role. But behind that decision was a story few people saw coming, from emotional family reactions to intense auditions, to Paris Jackson reportedly distancing herself from the film, while Catherine Jackson stood behind her grandson as he prepared to portray her son. And what it took for Jaafar Jackson to finally be accepted as Michael, maybe even more remarkable than the movie itself. Jaafar Jackson wasn't just another actor trying to imitate a legend. He grew up inside the Jackson family legacy as the son of Jermaine Jackson, surrounded by the music, the pressure, and the history of the Jackson 5. But being related to Michael Jackson didn't guarantee him the role. In fact, one of the biggest misconceptions about this casting is that family ties made the decision easy. They didn't. According to those close to the production, the search for the right actor was taken seriously because the stakes were enormous. This wasn't simply about finding someone who looked like Michael. It was about finding someone who could capture his spirit. That's where the auditions changed everything. When Jaafar reportedly performed for director Antoine Fuqua and producers, it wasn't just his resemblance that caught attention. It was the movement, the rhythm, the precision. People involved reportedly saw echoes of Michael in ways they didn't expect. And yet, even after landing the role, acceptance didn't come overnight. Because portraying Michael Jackson meant stepping into one of the most scrutinized roles in modern film history. Fans were skeptical. Social media exploded. Some viewers reacted with shock at how much Jaafar resembled his uncle in early production images, calling it almost surreal, as if Michael had somehow returned. Others were far less convinced, arguing that no one should attempt to portray Michael Jackson at all. And while public debate grew louder, reactions within the family carried even deeper emotional weight. One of the most discussed reactions came from Paris Jackson, who has reportedly kept distance from the film and has not been publicly involved in supporting the project. For many, that created questions. Was it discomfort over revisiting painful chapters of her father's life? Concern over how the story would be told? Or simply a desire to separate herself from a project she did not help shape? Whatever the reason, her distance added another layer of complexity to a film already surrounded by enormous expectations. But while one part of the family appeared cautious, another embraced the moment. Michael's mother, Catherine Jackson, reportedly supported her grandson taking on the role, and for many fans, that mattered deeply. Because if anyone understands the personal and emotional weight of seeing someone portray Michael, it would be the woman who raised him. For Catherine, supporters believed this wasn't just about a movie. It was about preserving legacy, keeping the story within the family, and trusting a grandson to honor a son. That support became one of the biggest reasons many skeptics began softening toward Jaafar's casting. But support alone wasn't enough. Jaafar still had to transform, and that meant more than learning choreography. Reports suggest he underwent intense preparation, studying Michael's mannerisms, posture, stage movements, speech patterns, and emotional presence. Because the challenge wasn't doing an impression, it was disappearing into the role. And that may be what shocked people most when early footage began circulating. The walk, the silhouette, the timing, the energy. For some fans, it felt eerie. For others, emotional. And for social media, it became a frenzy. Many described it as seeing glimpses of Michael again. Others called Jaafar the only person who could have done this because he wasn't studying a stranger. He was drawing from family memory. Still, the hardest part may not be the dancing or the transformation. It may be portraying the man behind the legend. Because this film isn't expected to focus only on iconic performances. It also touches a life shaped by fame, isolation, controversy, and enormous personal struggle. And that is where Jaafar faces the role's greatest test. Can he portray not just the superstar, but the human being? That question may define the entire film. Because Michael is more than a biopic. It's an attempt to tell one of the most complicated stories in entertainment history. And that is why every detail of Jaafar's casting has carried so much weight. From the auditions, to family divisions, to Catherine's support, to Paris's distance, to the social media reaction that made this feel bigger than a movie. This became a cultural event, a debate, a risk, and maybe a chance to revisit Michael Jackson's story through the eyes of those closest to him. Whether the film succeeds or divides audiences, one thing is already undeniable. Jaafar Jackson has taken on a role almost no one believed was possible. And now the world is waiting to see if he can truly become Michael Jackson.